That should be good enough. You should help people because you want them to help you. That should be good enough. Why does God even have to come into it?
Okay, well, it's real simple, sir. If I just have 60 to 80 years to live on this planet, and then I go to the great fertilizer pit, then I want as much gusto in my 60 to 80 years as possible. And if I need to steal his wallet in order to buy a house in the mountains so I can ski, there's nothing wrong with that. I've got 60 to 80 years to live, and then I become fertilizer. So,
like 600 years before Jesus Christ,
yes.
Mithras was also born December 25th, was also born to Virgin Mary, and was also resurrected on the third day, and was also crucified. And same as the god of Horus was also born December 25th, resurrected the third day, was crucified, the same thing. And like I feel like Jesus Christ is the same thing as like a Martin Luther King or a Gandhi. He died for, with civil disobedience. And I feel like it's the same thing. If someone were to write about Gandhi, it would have the same outlook as Jesus Christ. Like, what if he was just like another person that was, for the greater good of humankind? Like greater good, more greater good than what religion does to the world itself now.
It's fascinating you raised that question, because yesterday I studied Mithraism, Osiris, and Horus. All right, great question. First point, Jesus was not born on December 25th. December 25th is simply a holiday that has been attached to the birth of Christ. So Christ was not born on December 25th, that's just a tradition.
I was born of a virgin too, I just don't like to brag about it.
What was the significance of Mithra? The significance of his life was he killed a bull. That's the whole focus of Mithraism. Mithra killed the bull. Sir, the idea that Mithra was crucified, the idea that Mithra rose from the dead, those thoughts occurred way AD. Hundreds of years after Christ.
So was the New Testament.
Pardon?
So was the New Testament.
No, the New Testament was written in the 1st century. You know how we know that?
AD?
Yeah,
AD
1st century AD, after the birth of Christ.
Right.
In the
So
Gospels
were passed on from other people that saw Jesus, and that people. It's like playing the game telephone. By the end of the time, you're gonna have a whole different story than what you started with.
Okay. The Gospel of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John were written by the eyewitnesses or those who knew the eyewitnesses in the 1st century. The way that we know that is Ignatius, Bishop of Antioch, in letters he writes in 95 AD, quotes the Gospels. Clement, Bishop of Rome, writing in 115 AD, quotes the Gospels. 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 3 through 8, the Apostle Paul writes, "What I received, I passed on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scriptures, that he was buried, that he was raised from the dead, according to the Scriptures." When did Paul write 1 Corinthians 15? Between 50 and 54 AD. Sir, that's within 25 years of the death and resurrection of Christ. So whoever told you that the Gospels were written hundreds of years after Christ, I'm sorry, they're inaccurate. They're wrong. We have a fragment of the Gospel of John today in the John Rylands Museum in Manchester, England. It's verses from John chapter 18, and it's dated between 117 and 130 AD. So, sir, it's obvious that the Gospels were written in the 1st century by the eyewitnesses or by those who knew the eyewitnesses. Now, the resurrection of Osiris is the only resurrection that is in BC, that predates the resurrection of Christ. So now you've got to study the resurrection of Osiris. And when you study it, sir, what you'll find out is he was sliced up into 14 different pieces. He was killed. Then what happened? His sister Isis went around finding his parts. She found 13 of the 14 parts. So she puts the 13 parts back together again. And what does Osiris experience? He does not experience a resurrection body the way Jesus Christ physically rose from the dead. Instead, Osiris becomes the god of the underworld, a spiritual existence. So you do not, sir, have a physical resurrection. You have a spiritual resurrection of Osiris, where you've got 13 of his 14 parts in a spirit form in the underworld.
It doesn't ever say that there's any kind of correlation between him and the underworld, just in a spiritual kind of realm. And although he had his 13 pieces put together, the 13th piece was made from a spiritual kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering where you're getting that Osiris was in the realm of the underworld.
I studied it yesterday, sir. That's how I get it.
I mean,
It's very clear.
I'll go to the library.
Just check out Osiris. Good. Check out Osiris. He's put together again by his sister Isis, and he rules in the underworld, in a spiritual realm of the underworld.
Just because you're in a spiritual realm doesn't mean that it's an underworld.
All right, fine. If you have a problem with underworld, fine. He's in a spiritual realm.
So what's not to say that he was in the spiritual realm of the heavens?
Well, it definitely doesn't say that, but if you want to add that, go ahead. But what it does say is that he was not a physical being. The resurrection of Christ is not a spiritual resurrection, guys. In Luke chapter 24, when Jesus appears to his disciples, they think, oh no, we're hallucinating. This is a spirit. And what does Jesus do? He comes right up to him and says, grab hold of me and see. A spirit does not have flesh and bone the way you see I have. What does he do to Thomas? He doesn't say, hey Thomas, here I am, the ghost. No. He says, right here, Thomas, take your hands and put them in the nail prints in my hands, and Thomas stopped doubting and believed. So obviously, the clear claim of the Gospels is Jesus physically died on a cross. 3 days later, he physically rose from the dead, and over a period of 40 days, he appears to over 500 people who see him risen from the dead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, what my guess or understanding on that is where that information would come from other people's interpretations. So I'm not doubting that when the people were writing about this, that they didn't know what's going on, but they are writing their interpretations of what happened. And you're talking about that even some of the people just knew the eyewitnesses. Well, just knowing the eyewitness is not a direct link to the kind of information that's there. They're only giving their personal interpretation, and if we were looking under God's eyes, personal interpretations can be wrong.
I agree. Good point. So, if I say to you,
Well, it's all based on deception.
I'm an atheist, is it fair for you to interpret me to be saying, I believe that God exists? Is that a good interpretation? Either the miracle happened and the virgin had a baby, or the miracle didn't happen and Mary had sex with someone, and that's how Jesus was born. It's not a matter of interpretation. It's a matter of, did the miracle occur or did it not?
Okay, so how are we supposed to know today if the miracle did or did not occur?
Very simple.
By looking at other people's interpretations?
No. First of all, you ask yourself, does my worldview allow for a miracle to happen?
Yes.
Yours does? So that means you believe in some type of God or gods, right?
I believe in a higher power. That doesn't mean that they're a god.
Okay. But you believe there's more to reality than matter and energy.
No, I believe that the reality is energy.
Okay, well, if all of reality is matter and energy, how can a miracle happen?
Because energy can be manipulated in the ways that we might not understand right now.
Who's going to manipulate it?
The conscious being.
Okay. So what you're telling me is you think that a woman who hasn't had sex with a man can consciously manipulate her body so she can have a child?
No.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. Because I would say that's irrational. Sir, the only way it's possible for a virgin to have a baby is if there was a supernatural God who created the laws of nature. Therefore, he is capable of changing a law of nature and performing what you and I call a miracle, a virgin having a baby. That's the only way it can happen. If there is no God, it's impossible for a virgin to have a baby. And if you don't believe me, just go to biology.
Just because something is not being able to be explained today doesn't mean that it can't be explained in the past. Just like in the past, we look at the sky and we're like, why is that blue? Why are there stars? We didn't understand, so we'd make up explanations for that. And now, as science evolves, we're able to tell what we weren't able to tell back then. So just by saying that, well, today we don't know that, that it's impossible that a woman could get pregnant without actually, sperm entering the egg. Well, just because you can't explain that today doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to explain it scientifically in the future.
If there is no supernatural God, guys, virgins never have babies. And if you haven't learned that yet in biology class, that's embarrassing, okay? So the only way a virgin can have a baby is if there's a supernatural God who changes a law of nature and performs what you and I call a miracle. Philosophically, if you say there is no God, it's impossible for a miracle to happen, because if there is no God, all of reality is matter and energy. And matter and energy operate in a very consistent way. We call it the laws of nature,
That's not true.
the laws of science.
Quantum mechanics.
Thank you.
Quantum mechanics.
We're starting to
allows
show that the atom is all empty space. So we can look around and wonder how this matter is made up around us. It's all empty. Everything that we see is just projection from within our own mind.
Within the last year or two.
Wait. Say that last sentence again.
Everything that we see is a projection of what's happening within our own mind, our own conscious, and all of the conscious together. That's what God is. God is not someone off up in the sky that's preaching down, looking down, and be like, you sin, electric bolt, you're going to hell. No, God is a collective consciousness of everyone. I'm God, you're God, everyone here is God.
Okay. Now, if what you say is right, that I cannot perceive reality, I just make up reality in my head with my perception.
It doesn't mean you make it up, but you are able to interpret the reality differently than how you might interpret it right now. It doesn't mean that it's just, made up. It's how you perceive things.
Really? Well, then where does your rational mind come from?
My rational mind comes from my consciousness.
What does that mean?
My consciousness is basically how, from birth, my life perceives all of the information around it. I'm sure you know of the Trinity, body, mind, and spirit. When we're born, we are born with the spirit, the new mind, and a new body. So we have the collective consciousness, which is the spirit, which is in all of us. The body is the physical way that we experience the reality, and the mind is the mind that interprets it, the actual consciousness.
What is spirit?
Spirit is what a lot of people like to refer to as God. Spirit is the kind of consciousness that everyone has and is able to basically use. And what can happen is when all the collective consciousness comes together with the same intent, that is when a miracle is able to happen, because there's such a strong force behind it, the unseen force that has a lot to do with quantum physics, that unexplainable things start to happen. And just because we're not to explain it now doesn't mean that we can't explain it into the future when we start learning about new things, the quantum mechanics, the way that consciousness really works.
What is spirit? Where does spirit come from?
Spirit started from the great beginning. A lot of people like to call it the Big Bang, everything like that. There was one consciousness. You might refer to him as God. A lot of people refer to him as a lot of different things. And as that happens, God, consciousness, wants to experience life in as many ways as it can. So it might send consciousness as this guy right here. Intelligent, smart guy, he's experiencing consciousness in his own way. And then he might want to send it to some other person in India who grows up in some kind of temple, Buddhist temple, whatever. And he's experiencing his consciousness in a different way. So it is all of the same consciousness, experiencing it in different realms.
Does this stone have consciousness?
That is an extremely good question, and that's something that we're trying to figure out right now, is if inanimate things are able to have a consciousness. I'll tell you what the stone does have, is it all resonates on the same frequency that I do. You're bringing up energy and matter. Well, quantum physics is starting to show that everything is not as solid as we thought. It's more like a light wave, and it's a condensed light wave that is able to just manifest into something that's actually hard. So what we're trying to figure out now is, in what difference is my body have to this rock, because they're made of the same elements, the same energy, the same matter. That is where the Buddhists get the idea that the observer, seeing, and the phenomenon are one and the same. They're not actually separate, because we are all made of the same building blocks, the same unit that our reality is constructed of.
Sir, there was a Big Bang, right? About 15 billion years ago?
What are you saying?
There was a Big Bang about 15 billion years ago?
How the universe started, I don't know. But
do you accept the Big Bang theory or not?
I contemplate it. Aristotle once said that it's a mark of an educated mind to be able to contemplate an idea without accepting it.
Okay. So you don't accept the Big Bang, you just contemplate it.
Right.
Okay. Now, if your worldview is right, that consciousness is this vague thing, and that maybe this rock has consciousness.
It might be.
It might. Then why do you step on the rock and don't step on him? If the rock has consciousness and he has consciousness, why do you step on the rock and not step on him?
Just because I'm stepping on ground doesn't mean that I'm inflicting any kind of pain or hate to it.
What's the difference between me taking a machete, cutting a head of lettuce, cutting a cow's head, or cutting his head? Is there a difference?
Yes, there absolutely is a difference.
What's the basis?
Because plants are a way that everything in this life receives nutrition. There is not a single way to deny that. Everything comes from plants. And just because you are using a plant doesn't mean that you're even, again, hurting it, inflicting any kind of pain, because you're cycling through what is known as life. I would never hurt another human being because we're of the same species. You don't see lettuce going around chopping each other down. There's one universal force in the world, and it's consciousness. And if you ask me, consciousness is the same thing as love.
Okay,
All
very good.
there is love.
That's where you and I disagree. If what you say is true, nobody has innate value. They just have subjective value that we choose to subjectively
That
give
would
ourselves.
not be true. As where the question comes in, asking is where does consciousness comes in? Is because I have the spirit. Spirit, you know, everyone has a spirit. I wouldn't want to go to another person who's also experiencing reality through their body, mind, and then of course the collective spirit. I would never want to end their experience of reality, because that would ultimately break them of their connection between their body and mind and spirit. And now I'm done.
Okay. The only way there can be more to reality than matter and energy, the only way there can be a spirit logically, is if there is some type of God to create the spirit. Because if there's no God, then all of reality is matter and energy evolved to a higher order. The way you simply blindly, gullibly say, oh, there is spirit. You don't know that. If you philosophically say, my starting point is matter and energy, you can't just add spirit to that. But if there's a God who creates matter and energy and also creates spirit, then it's possible that spirit exists. The only way there can be more to reality than matter and energy is if there is some type of God to create spirit, to create a value of justice, to create a value of love, to create a value of kindness. You cannot put spirit into a mathematical equation. You cannot put love into a test tube. You cannot give me a foot of justice. Those are intangible, non-material values. The only way those values can be real is if there's more to reality than simple matter and energy. That's my point.
Do you mind if I?
Please, you got the floor.
You are saying that that is the only way that it's able. The only way that there could be a spirit is if there was a God. Okay, well then, where would you get your justification for that?
Because when you say there is no God, you're automatically limiting reality to obviously matter and energy.
No.
You are limiting yourself if you say there is a God and now I have to devote my life praising this one person. It limits the true abilities and capabilities that the human is able to achieve.
I agree with you. I've never said that, what you just said.
Okay.
I've never said that once. Instead, we're having a philosophical discussion right now about reality. Is reality just matter and energy, or is there a spirit? Are there values like justice and love and compassion that are non-physical, non-material values? My point is, if those values are real, justice, love, spirit, then there's got to be more to reality than just matter and energy. There's got to be some type of God to create and define spirit,
Why?
justice. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Good question. Because inanimate matter and energy have no ability to define or experience love, justice, kindness, compassion, or rational thinking. It takes a rational mind to think rationally. It takes a conscience of a human being to just say that is just, that is unjust, and to understand that. The leaf, the tree, the rock has no ability to appreciate justice, compassion, rational thinking, or free will.
That's not true.
Okay, fine. Go ahead.
Love is a kind of frequency, okay?
Love is a frequency?
It resonates to everything.
Yeah.
They have recorded heart monitoring systems when someone fills themselves with full of negative thoughts. It's super disharmonious. The beat is just going all over the place. But when someone focuses on pure love energy, just unconditional love, that is to all, not just all living, but to everything that there is. The heart starts working in a perfect, harmonious way. It is called synchronicity. It's when everything comes together in a perfect, flowing kind of way. So to say that a tree is not able to experience love is not true, because if you are to sit there next to a tree while it's growing, you go every day, 5 hours a day, and project love as much as you can into that tree, it can guarantee, scientifically will prove that that tree will grow more healthier and better.
Justice isn't real, and it's not real. It's made up by people. If justice was real, I would not be able to cut off his head, like you're saying earlier, without being smitten down on the ground. The only right that exists that humans have is the right of power. The only reason no one chops off anyone's head or takes stuff all the time is because there's a threat of the government going to jail or that other person killing you. That's why in the past, people did it all the time, because the strongest person was able to be king, or the strongest person had the most men following him, and you were able to do whatever you want because it was within your power and no one could stop you. Nowadays, it's more modern because we have government and whatever, and none of these people can chop off each other's heads or shoot each other because there's a real threat. The only right that is inherent in the universe is the right of power and control. There is no inherent justice. If I was the strongest person in the world, or if I was able to do whatever, I could kill thousands and thousands of people and nothing would happen.
Exactly. It is an honor to meet you. Thank you for your consistent thinking.
The logical
Now,
right there.
You've been very logical, and I love your logical thinking. That's why Mao said, morality comes out of the barrel of a gun. He understood what you said. He understood right and wrong are determined by the powerful. So who's got the power? They define right and wrong, and their definition wins. Now, I am radically different. I am convinced that even if I had 10 guys with machine guns behind me, and I said, okay, guys, start machine gunning them to death, and that is just, that is loving. I am convinced that although I have the power to impose my definition of justice and love by saying machine gun these people to death, I would be wrong. Because I am convinced that justice is a real value, objective, independent of my opinion, independent of Mao's opinion, independent of the powerful people's opinion. And I don't care if Nazi Germany would have won World War II and would have wiped out all Jews. I am convinced that the slaughter of Jews is absolutely evil. I don't care how much power Adolf Hitler has, or Mao. You see, why do I say that? Because my experience of life is a sensual experience. I watch gravity pull a person down from the top of the building, but I also have moral experience. And I observe objective morality through my experience.
Such as?
Such as, when you stole my backpack, you should not have done that. That was really wrong. When you told that racist joke, that was degrading of a person. Really objectively wrong. Not wrong because I'm a liberal, white, enlightened guy, but because all human beings have equal value and dignity because they're created in the image of God, and my conscience informs me that your racist joke is very demeaning of another human being.
First of all, not all people are created equal. That is, really that would be nice if people were created equal, but it's not true. There are people who are born retarded and they die when they're a year old. They're not equal to me, and physically or mentally or whatever. You can say spiritually because we can't, that's not measurable. It's kind of made up, and you know, there are different feelings towards it, but it's not real. There are people who run faster than other people. There are people who I will never be as smart as. There are people who are better than other people. There are people who are less moral, or they do more evil things, or they're less rational, or they're insane. People are not created equal. I'm sorry, that's not how the world is.
Okay, all I can say is it's an honor talking with you because you are intellectually consistent. You're absolutely correct. If there is no God, all people are not created equal. If there is no God, it's the rich, powerful people who are more valuable than the weak, poor people, or it's the intelligent people who are more valuable than the dumb people. You're absolutely right. But if there is a God who has given us the gift of human life, and he's given us innate value, then I don't care how uncoordinated you are, I don't care how fat and ugly you are, I don't care how low your IQ is. You're still a human being created in the image of God, which means your value has nothing to do with your GPA, it has nothing to do with you being white or black or Hispanic or Asian, it has to do with God's creating you with that value. You see the radical difference in the worldviews here?
I understand.
Well, I like the way you are so Okay. Consistent in your thinking. That's refreshing, so thank you.
Okay, so you say man is created in the image of God.
Yes.
I don't remember who said it. I think it was Aristotle. But he said if the horses could paint, surely they would paint the image of horses as gods or something. Why would God be like us? We suck. Like, people are horribly inefficient. We don't do very many things well. We eat and breathe through the same hole in our body. We can be eating and it gets stuck and we die. Why aren't we like dolphins? Why can't we breathe and eat through different holes? That's dumb. Why would he look like us? And you know, it's funny, if you go to paintings in Africa, God, what they paint as God, he's black. And if you go in Asia, he's Asian. And a European, he looks like a white guy with a beard.
Yep.
So why would we be in his image? Why?
You make great points, sir. You're right. Now, the Bible says that God isn't a white man. God isn't a black man. God isn't an Asian woman or an Hispanic woman. God is spirit, which means God doesn't have a body. So you're right, sir. If anybody draws God as a white man, they're wrong, which means Michelangelo, ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Big God with a big beard, barrel chest, big arms, white man, that's God. No, that ain't God. God doesn't have a body. So what does the Bible mean when it says that he created us in his image? It means rational thinking and creativity.
Why would they not say that he created us in his spirit? Or maybe not use the word image? Because that's pretty clear. When you say image, but I think
what does it mean to be created in the likeness of God? It does not mean to be a white person or a black person or Hispanic or Asian. It means God, who is a spiritual being, created us with a mind, creativity. God's the creator, and he gave us incredible gifts of creativity. It means God, who is love, has given us the ability to genuinely love. It means that God, who is just, has given us a conscience, and we can distinguish between right and wrong, good and evil. That's what the Bible means when it says we're created in the likeness or the image of God.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So if he created us in this image, the universe is really, 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 really big, right?
You bet.
It's really huge.
And really old
massive.
also.
It's very, very big.
Yep.
And the chance that other intelligent life does not exist is also really, really, really small. And I'm not saying God doesn't exist, because maybe he does. And we obviously haven't found alien life yet, okay? But I'm going to make a little comparison here. So chimps are the closest thing related to us in DNA, right? They're 1% different than us. And the smartest chimp can do some sign language, okay? We have 3-year-olds who can do sign language. And that difference comes from the difference in 1% in DNA. That is the difference in chimps and people, right? Okay, so say there's an alien race anywhere, doesn't matter where. And the chance that they exist is really, really high, because there's just too many, it's too big for it to not happen.
Yeah.
Now imagine that they're 2% in the same direction that we are from the chimps, away from us in DNA.
Yeah.
Our greatest accomplishments, like a chimp's greatest accomplishment learning sign language, would be absolutely nothing. Their toddlers of that alien race could also do that, and they would be vastly superior to us in just about every way that you could think of that's measurable. But why wouldn't the universe be created for them? They're better than us if they exist out there, which they probably do. Why would he only create the universe for us in his image? That makes no sense.
The Bible never says that God created the universe for us. Never says that, so you don't have to worry. And if there's alien life out there, no problem. Bible never answers the question, is there alien life or not?
Okay.
It's totally silent, so there's no contradiction between us discovering aliens and the Bible. No contradiction at all.
But how come it's us,
That's the
though?
same thinking for dinosaurs. The Bible never says dinosaurs never existed, so if the evidence is dinosaurs existed, that doesn't contradict the Bible.
Do you not feel a sense of loneliness or importance in the universe that maybe...
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that has driven me to Christ.
Yeah. And
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's a sense of loneliness. The question is there a God out there who gives a rip about me? And Jesus Christ says yes. And he actually loves you. And he's drawing you to himself. G.K. Chesterton put it beautifully when he wrote, "The man who knocks on the door of a brothel is really looking for God." God has hardwired us in such a way that we long for intimacy. We long for relationship. And the amazing message of Jesus Christ is God desires you and me to live in relationship with him. That's incredible.
Okay, then why make it so hard?
Why make it so hard? Okay.
It's really hard to find God anywhere.
It is?
Yeah.
I have the other problem. My problem is I don't see how much if somebody could miss him. So help me understand.
Okay.
Why is it so hard for you to find God?
Show me where he is.
Show me where he is. Wait a second.
Or you can
Show me where love is.
I don't believe in love either.
You don't believe in love either.
I think that you can like someone and you can really be fond of someone, but in love in the romantic terms that people really, really like, people are meant to be and stuff, it's not real.
Well, I agree with you. No problem there. Okay, when I say love,
Okay.
I'm talking about what motivated Mother Teresa to work among the dying in Calcutta,
I have
India.
a good answer for that.
Okay,
I have a
what's
very
your
good answer for that. For example, if I saw you were dying,
Yeah.
I'm a pretty good person and whatever, I would do whatever I could to help you. Now, most people would do it because if they didn't help you, they would kill themselves on the inside. If you walk along a man and you see him suffering or whatever, and you don't help him, it's better for you physically. You're thinking of yourself, really, because if you didn't help that guy, you would go home and you would cry for days because you're like, I could have saved his life, I could have done this, I could have done that. And so Mother Teresa is a very, very kind person, and every person that she saw was in trouble. She had to help them. If she didn't help them, it would be hurting herself. She would be killing herself if she couldn't do that.
Okay. Why do you think you experience guilt then? What I hear you saying is, if I don't help somebody and they're really hurting, I feel horribly guilty.
It's a defensive mechanism for biology that encourages us to work together as a thing so we can survive as a species.
It's a defensive mechanism for biology.
Yeah, to survive as a species.
To survive.
It's much better for an entire unit of species to work together to survive. It's a lot easier for that species to survive. It's worked pretty well for us so far. We're the most dominating species on the planet. And the most successful species that live the longest are ones that travel in herds or whatever. The ones that are alone a lot die easier or they're going extinct.
So what you're honestly trying to tell me is that because I am simply a biochemical animal, that's all I am.
Well,
The reason that I help handicapped people, the reason I give my money to starving people is so that I can sleep at night and not feel guilty.
you can feel better. It makes you feel good. It's the same reason you do anything that makes you feel good.
You've
You
got
like
to be
do
kidding
it.
me.
You don't. So
Do you
when
think the majority of Americans give away all their money to help starving people so they can sleep better at night?
Yeah, it's feel good. Why would you not?
Really?
It does it the same reason you do anything else. Why do you eat your favorite foods if you like the taste? Why do you help people out? Because it makes you feel
Then I got to
good.
tell you guys, it is an honor to be at this fine university. So what you're saying is, all of you are studying to figure out how you can help hurting people.
You're studying.
Is that what you're telling me? Come on.
No, you're studying. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
You're studying to get a degree, to get a job, to make money, to survive, so you can feed yourself, so you can feed a family,
Thank
so you
you.
can be happy.
There we go. So self-absorbed. We're not here at this fine university to figure out how to feed starving children. We're here to figure out how to make money for ourselves.
Yeah.
Now, Jesus Christ wants to change that. Jesus Christ wants to help us to understand that the mind is a gift from God. It's a good gift. Use it well. Study hard to develop that mind so you can make this messed up world a better place to live, more like heaven will be. Which means, get a good job, make lots of money. But then ask yourself, now that I have this money, what percentage should I give away to help those who are starving to death, and what percentage should I keep for myself? See, when you put your faith in Christ, it changes your whole view of reality. So instead of helping starving people because I feel guilty and can't go to sleep at night because they're starving to death, no, the motive is love. Because I understand God loves me, I'm going to love others, and I'm going to help feed starving people because I love people, not because I can't sleep at night because guilt is bugging me.
That's the same. It's the same thing.
No, it's not the same thing. It's a radically different motive. Now, sir, listen to the letter of Dr. Martin Luther King from a Birmingham jail. All the white Protestant ministers in Birmingham, Alabama said, "Shut up, Dr. King. Segregation is good." Why? Because the culture, the great state of Alabama, says segregation is good. Dr. Martin Luther King, in his letter from a Birmingham jail, wrote, "There is a law above the law of the great state of Alabama, and that law says that all people are created equal, and therefore segregation is wrong." See, those are two radically different worldviews. One worldview says culture defines right and wrong. It's just subjective. The other worldview of Dr. Martin Luther King says God is just, he's good, and because he's good, his will is good, which means segregation is wrong, because it's a violation of the innate value of human beings created in the image of God. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, but okay.
So the obvious question is, do you think God exists?
I have no idea, and I think that anyone claiming to have an idea is totally irrational.
Okay, good. Why? Why is it irrational to believe God exists?
Because there's no way to know. You haven't died or whatever, and there's evidence, not really against it, but it makes it not likely. Like, if God created the universe for us, as a lot of people say, right? Why does almost everything kill us everywhere? We can't even live on a lot of the earth because it's all water. We can't live on water. You can't live anywhere in space. Almost every planet everywhere kills. And there's a lot of, I don't want to go into the God thing because that'll last forever. I think it could go either way, but I think that it shouldn't matter anyway. It shouldn't matter either way whether or not you believe in God. You shouldn't do anything that's going to hurt anyone else because then that gives them the right to do that to you. And that should be good enough. You should help people because you want them to help you. That should be good enough. Why does God even have to come into it?
Okay, well, it's real simple, sir. If I just have 60 to 80 years to live on this planet, and then I go to the great fertilizer pit, then I want as much gusto in my 60 to 80 years as possible. And if I need to steal his wallet in order to buy a house in the mountains so I can ski, there's nothing wrong with that. I've got 60 to 80 years to live, and then I become fertilizer. So I want to pack as much fun into my life, so I'm going to steal his stock portfolio, I'm going to steal his money. Why? Because I don't have enough money to buy a house in the mountains to go skiing and snowboarding. So I'm going to steal it. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
I never said, that's the opposite of what I just said.
But is there anything wrong with that?
I just said don't hurt people because they can hurt you. I just said
Why? I'm not going to be stupid enough to steal his money in order to be caught by the cops, okay? I'm going to manipulate stuff so I'm smart enough that I can steal his money without getting caught. So answer the question, sir. Why, if all of life is 60 to 80 years, and then I go to the fertilizer pit along with everybody else, why should I not steal his money so I can buy a house in the mountains so I can ski? I love to ski. Why should I not do that?
If you can get away with it, and no problem, then there's nothing in the world stopping you.
Thank you. Nothing wrong, right?
Nothing wrong with the universe stopping you doing it.
Nothing wrong with me stealing. Because
according to the universe.
Exactly, according to the universe, where there is no God. But if there is a God who created him with value and me with value, then it's absolutely wrong for me to steal his stock portfolio and then buy a house in the universe because it's being disrespectful of a human being with innate value. See, that's the contradiction of the two worldviews. You've done a great job, and I can't thank you enough because you're consistent intellectually.
Yeah. Now, how come God has to be good? How come God can't exist and he can kind of be okay? Maybe he's bad sometimes. Maybe he likes to do stuff for fun. Maybe he likes to hurl meteors and blow up planets.
Good. It's possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the question becomes, first of all, you don't believe there's a God, right?
No, I don't believe either way. I think that there's possibility either way.
All right.
Because I don't know, because I'm not smart enough to know.
Okay, well then let's go step by step. Let me tell you why I believe God exists.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you why I think God is good.
Okay.
Because those are two questions you've asked, right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, the evidence, not the proof, the evidence that God exists is the following. I found this watch lying on the side of the road.
Are you going to do the watchmaker thing?
Yeah.
No, okay, the watchmaker thing is silly because the watchmaker thing is silly because this is the only thing we're ever going to see. Like, the universe is so perfect that it has to have been designed, right?
There is too much design in the universe, in your human eye, for me to conclude it's a chance accident.
The design comes from millions and millions of years of trial and error and evolution. If that was true, why would there have been evolution in the first place? If there was design, why wouldn't he have just gone right to it?
Because he does what he wants, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it.
That's the best excuse that any religion has. It's because God says so.
That's bias, sir. That's not intellectually honest. That's bias.
Well, no, it's not bias.
That's
because
the best excuse. No. That's being objective.
No, it's
God
not.
can create any way God wants to.
I don't really believe it that much. Because technically, if God was real, then yeah, he can do whatever he wants. He could do it through evolution if he wanted to.
Sir, it's real simple. If I prepare a delicious meal, set it before you, and then say, there is no cook, that's ridiculous, right? Genesis chapter 3 records how human beings rebelled against God. And when we rebelled against God, chaos broke loose, Genetic breakdown occurred and death occurred. So, something is grievously wrong. You're right. Something's grievously wrong with a good creation. Something's gone wrong. And Genesis chapter 3 insists when human beings told God, get out, he honors our request, he steps back, and chaos breaks loose.
Okay,